Friends, what did you learn in your? People say I studied loss of motion, I studied motion, I studied gravitation, and all light, electricity, and all those things, right? So yeah. So what actually? So I'll restrict my discussion to physics only, okay, in today's class. So in physics, you're not just studying all these theories, formulas, and all those things, okay? When you're studying, let's say, motion, you're trying to understand how objects move. When you're studying Newton's laws of motion, you're basically studying how a rocket is going to work. The working principle of rocket is simply based on Newton's laws of motions, right? And when you study gravitation, you will understand how planets revolve around the sun or how moon revolves around the earth, right? And when you study circular motion, you will understand why you go with why you reduce your speed on speed breakers, or why do you slow down when you are taking sharp turns. What happens if you travel with more speed? You will obviously fall off, right? And when you study thermodynamics in physics, you will try to understand what is the working principle behind fridge or refrigerator and how the air conditioner works, right? And when you study, let's say, electromagnetism in your 12th class, you are basically going to understand how the electricity works and how your communication works, like how are you able to use your cell phones and all, what's the science behind these things. And similarly, when you study optics, you are going to understand how you are able to see this world and what are natural phenomena that are going to occur in this world, what's the reason behind them. So I can go on and on regarding the applications of each and every chapter that we have learned and that we are going to learn in physics. Okay, so today's class is all about discussion of certain natural phenomena. Okay, and yeah, it would be, the discussion would be more fruitful if you can engage in the discussion. Okay, so let's start with the most beautiful natural phenomena, that is formation of rainbows, right? So if I ask you, how does a rainbow form? Recently you have completed all your 10th board exams and you have all studied in your 10th class. So yes, students, can you respond in the chat? What are the basic phenomena behind the occurrence of the rainbow? If anyone would like to speak verbally or answer verbally, that is fine. Okay, you can unmute yourself and you can answer. So yes, students are answering in the chat. They are saying atmospheric refraction, scattering of from raindrop, total internal reflection and refraction, multiple internal reflections of light, dispersion of light. Yes, so yes, you got the idea. So yes, you are absolutely fine. So if I have to say what you have studied in your 10th class, you know reflection, loss of reflection and loss of refraction, right? You know what is reflection, what is refraction. So again, this, no, I'm not going to discuss much into detail about that, but whatever, from what I understand, like आपका understanding जो है, your understanding about the formation of rainbow as per your 10th class science is something like this. So sunlight comes from here, right? After this, it gets total internally. I'm sorry, a refraction is going to take place. This is your raindrop, and this is your sunlight, right? And after this, what is going to happen? Total internal reflection is going to happen over here. Here, TIR is going to happen. Here, refraction. And again here, one more refraction. Right, students? This is what you have studied regarding the occurrence of rainbow, right? Is anyone having any doubt in this? So the rainbow, the reason behind occurrence of rainbow is, one is the refraction. Here, the refraction of light is taking, when the sunlight enters this drop, a similar action to the prism take place, and here the dispersion of the light happens as well as the refraction is going to happen, right? So, and here internal reflection happens. It again reverse reflects back, and again refraction occurs over here. So if you are standing over here, you will be able to see different colors. This is what your understanding is in your 10th class. Correct, students? Anyone having any doubt in this so far? Okay, so everyone is clear about this, right? So my question to you, all of you is, if this is the case, let's say, and what are the conditions for you to see a rainbow? The sun should be behind you, correct? The sun should be let's say the sun is somewhere over here, and you are standing somewhere over here, okay? And आपके सामने इधर here the rain is happening, okay? And you are looking in this particular direction. Then you will be able to see rainbows over here, right? So sun should be behind you, and in front of you the rain should happen and all. But one thing that most students have doubt in this case is, like, if this is the reason behind the occurrence of rainbow, then why don't you see all the 7 colors like everywhere on the screen? Like आपके सामने पूरा screen जो है, it should be filled with multiple colors, right? But that is not happening when it is raining, and if it is perfectly, all the conditions are like sun is behind you and आपके सामने rain हो रहा है. And if you see, the rainbow is going to be in this arc shape. What is the reason behind this? Why don't we see the 7 colors throughout the sky? Anyone has any answer for this? Shape of the atmosphere. What is the shape of atmosphere? The rain is going to happen like everywhere, right? So what do you mean by shape of atmosphere? One student is saying angle of refraction. Yes, okay. Can you please elaborate on that? Curved curvature. What does that mean by curved curvature? Reflection takes in arc shape of Earth. Not exactly. Okay. Okay, let us study this case. Okay. So let me erase all these drawings which I have done here so far. Okay. Now, when the sunlight falls, okay, one student typed something. It is basically because drops are semicircular in shape and their refractive rays bend across the circle-shaped drops. The rays are so fine that they take the shape of the lower portion of the drop, and then due to multiple internal reflections. Not exactly, Aditya, but yes, we will let us have a discussion now. I will explain you what is actually happening over here. Let us go step by step in a detailed manner. Okay. So I will take you from the level of understanding what you're having from your 10th class. I will begin from here. So yeah. So all of you, please look at this particular case over here. So if you here look at this, I'm assuming the raindrop in a perfectly spherical shape. Ideally, the raindrop will be, in which case it will be somewhat like this. Okay. But let us, for the sake of simple calculations and understanding, let us assume it is in a perfect spherical shape. So when the sunlight falls on this raindrops, okay, what is going to happen is dispersion is going to take place. And you know, you have studied in prism that the violet ray is going to bend far more than the red color, right? And this is because all these different colors of light have different wavelengths, and let us not go into much detail about that as of now. So yes, so violet color is going to be here and red color is going to be here. And after this, the total internal reflection takes place. What is the condition for total internal reflection to take place? The light should travel from denser medium to rarer medium, right? So here atmosphere is rarer medium, here the rain droplet is denser medium, and here again it is rarer medium. So in this case, when the sunlight is entering this raindrop, it is entering from rarer to denser. That's why it is bending towards the normal, right? And dispersion is happening because you can assume at this the curvature, you can take it as almost a prism kind of thing. Okay. Now, once it gets dispersed over here, again the light is traveling from denser to rarer medium. Okay, and the angle it makes the normal is almost more than the critical angle, and hence the total internal reflection takes place. Okay, and from here again the light is traveling from denser to rarer medium. Again refractions take place and the rays move away from the normal. Is that clear, students? So yeah, if you look at this case, now here it is red in color, here it is violet in color. Clear, students? But when you see a rainbow, which one will you see on the downwards? You will see the blue one here and the red one in the above case, right? So let us study. Is in this diagram anyone having any doubt? Yeah, I hope this is clear for everyone till here, right? So yeah, what I'll do is, let us again not draw all these 7 colors in each and every diagram. Let us take these extreme cases, this violet and red only. Let us indicate only these 2 colors on the screen. Now, if I look at this case, now what is happening? Here it is red color, here it is violet color. Correct, students? Now, scientifically it is proven and it is measured, and the 7 colors are VIBGYOR, right? Violet, indigo, blue, green, yellow, orange, and red. What are the 7 colors? Again, okay, let me draw here. If this is prism, lights get dispersed and it gets into 7 colors. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And these are VIBGYOR. This is violet, indigo, I'll write it separately over here. Violet, indigo, blue, green, yellow, orange, and red. Okay, yeah. So these are the colors that you are going to see. Now what I'm going to do is, we can prove it physically, mathematically prove कर सकते हैं, and we can also find out experimentally also. When it is measured, the angles that we are going to see here is, let's say, if I extend this sunlight, okay, if I extend this sunlight like this, much beyond like this, okay, and here I'm extending the red color also, like this, and I'm extending the blue color also backwards. Now, all of you please tell me, this is the original sunlight ray, okay, this is original sunlight ray, and this is the violet, this is the original sunlight ray, and this is the violet ray that is coming out of this raindrop, and this is a red drop coming out of this raindrop, okay. Now, which of this, does this violet ray makes more angle, or this red ray makes more angle with the sunlight? Is my question clear, students? Yes, that is very good. Most of you are answering correctly. The red ray that is coming out of this will make more angle than the blue ray that is coming over here. If you look at this, Clear? Which angle is more? Clearly, the angle made by the red one is more than the angle made by the violet one, right? So instead of drawing it separately over there, what I'll do is I'll draw a line parallel to the sunlight. Okay, here in this case it is a horizontal, right? So if I'm drawing it separately over here, when I'm drawing it separately, I'm getting it to two rays. One is the blue ray or the violet ray, and the other one is the red ray, right? So if you take this as a triangle also, you can clearly see the angle made by the red one is more than the angle made by the violet ray. Correct, students? So if you calculate, these angles are going to come as, this is going to be 42 degrees approximately, and this is going to be 40 degrees approximately. Okay. Now all the time sun rays need not be parallel to the surface of there. They can be making some angle also, just like here what I've seen here, what I've shown you here. The angle made by the violet ray with the actual sunlight will be how much? 40 degrees, and the red light, the angle made by this will be 42 degrees. Is that clear, students? Now when you are looking, now one thing students get confused is, if you place the observer's eye over here, you may say that, sir, I will see the red color in the downwards and the violet color in the upwards, but that is not the case. Okay. Now what is happening is, when you actually see, you are going to see the violet color in the downwards and red color in the upwards, right? Now why is that? Because now the rainbows that you are going to see, each color is coming from different raindrops. Now what I'm trying to say here is, again I'll illustrate this with a picture over here. Now look at this particular case. Ignore the angles given in this particular case, because it varies from textbook to textbook and all. But almost 40.6 to 42.3 here. So I have taken approximately 40 degrees for red one, and this 42 for red and 40 for violet. Okay. Now if you look at this, there are multiple raindrops that are going to be there in the atmosphere when the rain is going to happen. Correct, students? Now for a human eye, like he cannot collect, this eye cannot collect all the raindrops, like all the colors that are dispersed by one single drop, because here it may be a 2-degree difference, but when it comes to him, this rays might be not, like all the rays by a single drop cannot be caught by the eyes of the observer. Now what happens is, in this particular case, the red color is caught by one drop, okay, and here the blue color is caught by the other drop. Okay, by this angle that you have seen over here, for the person, he seems that that the red color is at a higher elevation than the blue color, because of the angle that it is making with the horizontal over here. That's why he sees violet down and red in the upper case. Now coming to the actual important question, why do they happen in this arc shape? The reason behind it is, let's say, imagine, now in this case I'll try to explain. Let's say, try to imagine a compass. Okay, you place the two arms of the compass like this, and the angle in this angle is how much? This angle is 40 degrees to 42 degrees, whatever it is. Okay, now all the rain droplets in the atmosphere which are making this angle will, like, the refraction of those rain droplets which are making an angle of 40 to 42 degrees will be able to reach your eye. Rest of the droplets be refraction kar rahe. All the other rain droplets which are not making those angles are also making refraction, but those refractions are not able to reach your eyes. Okay. Now if you try to draw the loci of these points, it will be what? It will be a shape something like this. Actually it will be a full circle, but the earth horizon will cut this down part. So what you will be seeing is this kind of shape. So hence it will form a what you call an arc shape. Is that clear, students? I will explain with one more picture over here. Yeah, now look at this. Ignore the secondary rainbows in this case, only observe the primary ones. If this is the observer, okay, he will be, now only observe till here, okay, I will tell the upper one later. There are primary rainbows and secondary rainbows and all those things. Now, if this is the observer, here is the straight line, and this is the 42 degrees lines that are being drawn. Now this drawn, imagine like it a compass, okay, which you use to draw the circles. You fix this position, and you make the other arm with an angle 42 degrees. And since you have fixed this position, now try to rotate this, okay. This will make this kind of shape, right? Actually, it has to make a complete circle, but you cannot see, like if this is the Earth's surface, you can able to see only the reflection from here to here, right? So Earth's horizon cuts it. That's why you are able to see only the half of it. Now, does that mean the raindrops which are over here, aren't they refracting according to the principle of prism and all? No, they are also refracting the light, but the refraction of these rain droplets, which are not making this 42 degrees, are not going to reach your eyes. Is that clear, students? So here is a picture of a rainbow. Over here. Is it clear to you, students, why it will be in an arc shape? Okay. Now, sometimes you will be seeing something called double rainbow. Yes, I'll wait here for a minute. If anyone is having any question, you can ask. Okay, so no one is having any doubt. Which horizontal line cuts? It is the Earth. Okay, like if I'm standing over here, okay, I am the observer. This pen is the observer over here. Okay, so if the pen is the observer, the rainbow is going to form like this. Okay, it is going to form like this, and I cannot see what is below this, right? If I'm standing over here, imagine this mouse is the observer, and he is going to see the rainbows forming in this shape. Now this mouse cannot see what is below this pad, right? This pad is the surface of the Earth. That's right. What should be the 40 to 42 degrees? It is the angle of the raindrops horizontal to you, or it is the angle made by the sunlight to the violet and the orange rays. Because those if it is more than 42 degrees or less than 40 degrees, they won't be able to reach your eyes, the refraction made by the lights. Clear, students? Okay. Now I'll show one more picture also. Let's say sometimes you will be seeing a double rainbow, and it is a homework for you. You find out in the internet. Now everything can be found in the internet. Okay. The thing is, you search why or how a double rainbow is formed, and there will be a full rainbow also. You can see a full circle rainbow also, provided that you are at a sufficient elevation and all. Let me show you a picture of the full rainbow. These are the skydivers, okay, doing skydiving from a plane. Now, above them there is sun, and below them rain is happening. So the angle made by them with the, you able to see the screen? Yeah, there are no horizon cuts. Yes, yes. Here there are no horizon cuts. That's why they are able to see the rainbow in a full circle shape. Is that clear, students? But when you are on the earth, what happens is earth cuts off that zone, so you are not able to see the bottommost case. So yeah. The thing is, if you can search on internet, you can see amazing videos on YouTube regarding double rainbows also and single rainbows also. I myself witnessed twice when I was trekking in Himalayas. The double rainbow is absolutely stunning. It will take your breath away. Now, the beauty about the rainbows is, all of you please pay attention what I'm going to say here. The beauty of the rainbows is each and every rainbow that is going to occur in this nature is specially designed for every individual. What I'm trying to say is, let's say if I'm standing here and beside me, my friend is standing with me. Now, the rainbow seen by me will be entirely different from the rainbow seen by my friend because the I'm able to see the rainbow because of the refracted lights coming refracted light rays that are coming from certain raindrops, right? So the raindrops which are making an angle of 40 to 42 degrees with my eyes will not make the same angle with my friend who is standing beside me. Some other raindrops will make those angles with him, right? So मैं जो रेनबो देख रहा हूँ that is specially designed for me. My friend who is watching the same phenomena beside me, standing beside me, he also watches that rainbow, but that is an entirely special rainbow designed for him. So in nature, जब भी rainbow form होता है, try to appreciate the beauty of the nature because it is specially designed for you. Is that clear, students? What I'm trying to say? What I'm trying to say is, let's say, here in this particular case, this is observer 1, okay? This is O1, and he's seeing the rainbow somewhat like this, okay? He has O2 is observer, his friend is standing here over here. He will also look at the rainbow, but the rainbow seen by O2 will be this one. Clear, students? So this is the beauty of nature. So next time when you see a rainbow with your friends ones, try to take a moment, take a deep breath, and try to appreciate it. Clear, students? Yes. So I'm intentionally not telling how the double rainbow occurs because you take it as a homework. You try to search it. In the process of searching answer for those things, you will find many other beautiful concepts. Okay, that's why the curiosity has to be there. Like, yes, you all have studied why the rainbow, how the rainbow is formed in your 10th class, because you want to score marks. You want to score 100 out of 100, 98 of 100, whatever it is, more than 90%. Score करना है. Yes, scoring marks is very important, but that should not be the only motive for gaining knowledge. You should study to gain knowledge. You should study to appreciate the natural phenomena. And physics is all about the natural phenomena. My voice is not clear. 1 second. Clear, students, now? Hello? Okay, I hope it is clear now. Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is, whatever you are going to learn, just do not learn for the sake of marks. If you try to understand what is its purpose in real life, yeah, I'm studying this because of why, like why, for what reason am I studying this? Is this going to have an application in real life? Yes, definitely. Because all the algebra that you have learned so far, or the trigonometry that you have learned so far, in 11th and 12th, you will be learning something called calculus. There will be differentiation, there will be integration, and students will be thinking that, oh, where am I going to use this, all this integration, differentiation, or the statistics, or the graphs that I'm drawing in real life. The best example that you can give you at this situation is the corona. Okay, the corona is expanding throughout the world exponentially, right? So if you draw a normal graph, you are definitely not going to understand at what rate it is going to grow. Then there will be different kinds of growth. There will be logarithmic graphs. When you plot a logarithmic graph, you will get a clear picture the rate at which it is growing, or whether it is decreasing, whether it is staying flat, and all. Okay, and there will be n number of applications. Yes, I'm not going to detailedly discuss all those things, but trust me students, आप जो भी पढ़ रहे हैं क्लास में, जो भी आपके syllabus में है, whatever is there in your syllabus that you have studied so far and that you are going to study in your 11th and 12th, each and everything is going to have an application in your real life. Okay, it is up to you whether you are going to appreciate it or not, but yeah, I'm not going to discuss all how they calculate and how the graphs are going to look at this stage, but definitely I'll discuss that when I start when I take basics of calculus in 11th class. I will tell you what is differentiation first, what is integration, and how do you generate an equation for the spread of this corona, and how do you plot the graphs and what those graphs mean and all. But I will not discuss those things at this stage. Okay. So I hope this rainbow concept is very clear to everyone, right? Yeah, and the double rainbow is a homework for you to study, because in the process of searching an answer for that one question, you will find n number of interesting things. Yeah. So yes, students, with this I will end this rainbow discussion over here. Let us start. Let us discuss few other interesting things, like, yeah. Yesterday I said one more question. I've given one more question to all of you, that, like, everyone knows why the solar eclipse and lunar eclipse occurs, right? How does they happen? Let's say sun is over here and earth is over here. This is earth, and let's say this is the moon. If sun, earth, moon all come in a straight line, in this particular case, solar eclipse is going to happen, right? And if the moon is over here, the earth's shadow will fall on moon, and here lunar eclipse will happen, right? But if this is the case, then every 30 days, every 15 days, you will see either full moon or new moon, right? Then why don't you see the eclipses every 15 days then? Can anyone answer for this question? Is my question clear to you, students? My question is, we all know that the solar eclipse happen when moon comes in between sun and earth, right? And the lunar eclipse happen when the earth comes between sun and moon. So then if this is the case, then why don't you see a solar eclipse or lunar eclipse every 15 days? We see solar eclipse or lunar eclipse once in a while, right? It may take sometimes months, after every few months it will repeat, or sometimes it will repeat, it may come after a year or years. Yes, Aditya is telling that because earth, moon are not in a straight line, slightly comes down, as different planets revolve in different speed and different direction. I'm not talking about other planets. I'm talking about earth, moon, and sun. Okay, so let us watch these videos for understanding how these things happen. Okay. Give me a minute, students, here. So in this video, a small demonstration about how eclipse are, do any sort of personal chat in the group, okay? It is meant so that if you have any doubts, you can ask the questions. So yes, let us resume the class. Again, let's start the video here.
It was the climax of years of preparation and research, and the pinnacle moment of the so-called space race between the United States and Soviet Union, a years-long rivalry to compete for dominance in space exploration. For the 8 days following the launch, the world awaited the return of the would-be heroes. So what actually happened between here and here? So let's start with the components of the ship that were discarded one by one until this became this. Here's the rocket that sent the astronauts into space, the Saturn V. The 3 stages of the Saturn V each played a different role in launching Apollo on a path to the moon. We'll get to that later.
Is the audio and video clear, students? Students, you can post either to the public or to the host. Okay, only, right? Okay. Let's restrict the chat for the subject over here and the discussion that we are having in the class.
On top of the rocket is the actual Apollo spacecraft. It's made up of 3 parts too. There's the lunar module, the component that would eventually land on the lunar surface, the service module, which had propulsion systems for course corrections and entering and escaping orbit, and the command module, where our 3 heroes were for most of the mission. And last but not least, this is the launch escape system, which was designed to pull the command module away from the rocket if something went wrong during launch. Together, all these pieces made up the Saturn V rocket and Apollo 11 spacecraft. But it's the way they came apart that made the moon landing happen. The Saturn V's first stage launched Apollo, carrying the spacecraft 42 miles above the Earth and reaching a speed of about 6,000 miles per hour. The first stage then detached, and once the Saturn V's second stage kicked in, the now needless launch escape system jettisoned too. The second stage propelled the spacecraft even farther and faster into space, and after it detached, the third stage of the rocket fired briefly to knock Apollo into a parking orbit, 103 miles above the Earth's surface. Here, final checks were made, and the Saturn V fired again to set Apollo on course to the moon, in a move called the translunar injection. Once the spacecraft propelled away from Earth, the Saturn V's job was done. Now, the astronauts needed to pull off a mid-flight maneuver to reconfigure the ship so the crew could access the lunar module, which had been stored in a protective compartment during launch. To do this, the command service module detached and flipped 180 degrees, docking with the lunar module and extracting it. In the process, they ditched the third, now useless stage of the Saturn rocket. This whole high-stakes launch process only took about 3.5 hours, and this, the completed Apollo spacecraft, was the end result. For the next 3 days, Apollo coasted through space, until it finally reached its target and was pulled into orbit by the moon's gravity. This is where the crew split up. Armstrong and Aldrin transferred to the lunar module, named Eagle, and slowly descended toward the surface, while Collins continued to circle the moon in the command module, called Columbia. Now, here comes another tricky part, landing on the moon. To make this historic moment happen, Eagle turned and used its engine to slow its momentum and ultimately touch down on the lunar surface.
The Eagle has landed.
The moonwalk was broadcast live on television, immortalizing Neil Armstrong's words here.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
I think that was Neil's quote. I didn't understand it.
No, one small step for man, but I didn't get the second phrase.
After about 21.5 hours on the moon, Eagle performed the first launch from a celestial body that wasn't Earth, leaving its landing gear behind and timing its ascent with Columbia's path in lunar orbit to rejoin the spacecraft. Once Armstrong and Aldrin transferred back into the command module, the lunar module was no longer needed. Just like before, Apollo needed to break out of orbit. This maneuver was called the trans-Earth injection, and began the 2.5-day journey home. Upon approaching its entry point into Earth's atmosphere and no longer needing its propulsion engines, Apollo jettisoned the service module and prepared for re-entry, protected by the now exposed heat shield on the bottom of the command module.
Apollo blazes across the heavens, coming back to Earth at 25,000 miles an hour.
Parachutes deployed, and Columbia splashed down safely into the Pacific Ocean. And what was once a 3,000-ton behemoth of rocket, fuel, and freight was reduced to this: a small command module floating in the ocean, carrying 3 astronauts and rock samples collected from the surface of the moon.
I hope you have understood, students. So let us watch how the animation of Chandrayaan-2, in which India we were almost yeah, they landed in sea. Like when they went moon and astronauts जब वापस आता है, generally they will be coming in a very small a cabin जैसा रहता है. It will be a very small cabin. To make a proper safe landing on the land is very difficult. Okay, whereas if it happens in the ocean, it will be safe for both the astronauts as well as it won't take a much hit. Okay, that's why most of the landings will happen in the ocean. Yeah, recently, Joe space, when we have sent into 2 astronauts into space using SpaceX Crew Dragon, the astronauts were quarantined because they don't want to take any sort of viruses or bacteria into the space, because they were able to meet the other astronauts in the space who are already in the space station. Now, had they been taken like without have they been not quarantined, if they are carrying the bacteria or virus, then it would be there in the like others also would be getting contacted, right? So that's why. So yes, students, and let's watch a small 2-minute or 3-minute animation of this ISRO's Chandrayaan mission, and also let us see where at what stage we have failed.
Liftoff will start in T-minus 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have ignition.
One thing that all you should understand is, once these rockets or satellites are launched into the space, they won't go to the moon in a single straight line. All of you please note that. This mechanism is called a slingshot mechanism. Imagine it like this, like you have tied a stone to a rope and you have started whirling the rope, okay? So the stone is performing a circular motion. Now, at certain stage, if you cut the rope, what will happen? That stone will travel in the tangential direction with the speed which it is having at that time, right? So a slingshot mechanism is exactly like this. This satellite is performing this elliptical path over here, and when the tangent is towards the moon's, it points towards the moon, it will break from this orbit, okay, and it will travel in this particular direction. Yeah, it is covered in gold color because of multiple reasons. One is because of the shielding factors and other radiation factors. Let's skip that part, okay? Let's try to complete this video first. If you have seen here, multiple times it revolved around the Earth, and slowly it was increasing its orbit. While it was increasing the orbit, it is slowly moving away from the gravitational pull of the Earth, as well as it is orienting itself towards the direction of the moon. here where we have failed. Like when it was about to land, it will reverse itself so that it will start its engine so that it will not hit the floor as hard as possible. Okay? It will try to hit the floor of the moon as smoothly as possible. That's why it will reverse and in the engines will start to fire up. Okay. At this stage, we have failed to do a soft landing. We call this a soft landing, and our Chandrayaan mission failed at this particular stage, or else everything was perfectly smooth. Is asking why the satellites are covered golden in color. The gold color is because of there are multiple benefits of using gold over these satellites. Are highly sensitive equipments, and some of the reasons go like this: because they helps us protect against the corrosion and the corrosion because of the ultraviolet and X-rays that are present. Okay, and long-lasting electrical contact or electronics that we use, उसके लिए shielding भी provide करता है. And yeah, it helps like if you see the helmets of the astronauts also, previous ones, they used to have a gold color foil जैसा एक रहता है. That is done because it has excellent ability to reflect infrared light while letting in visible light. Okay, so astronauts visors have a thin layer of gold on them to protect their eyes from the unfiltered sunlight. Yeah, it's pure gold, pure gold. So yes, students, these are some of the topics that I want to discuss. Like I was saying also one more thing yesterday, we will be able to see only one half of the moon, right? Can anyone tell me what's the reason behind that? It is because, again, do you take this as a homework and search in the internet? Even H.C. Verma made a video about this on the YouTube. Okay, you can find the answer very easily. The reason behind it is, for example, what is the Earth's rotation period? It is 24 hours, right? What is the Earth's revolution period? It is 365 days. But when it comes to moon's rotation period is 30 days, close to 30 days, 28 to 30 days, and its revolution period around the Earth is also the same as the rotation period of the moon. This makes that if we are on the Earth, we will be able to see only the same face of the moon at every time. Okay, or let me show the video itself directly. Okay.
A solar eclipse happens when the moon's shadow falls somewhere on the surface of Earth, and a lunar eclipse is the opposite, when the Earth's shadow falls on the moon. The two sections of the shadow, the dark umbra and the partially shaded penumbra, their placement determines which type of eclipse we can see from Earth.
तो आपने आसमान के अंदर में
हिंदी, okay? If anyone doesn't understand, you can let me know.
चंद्रमा, सूरज, तारे सब देखे होंगे. सूरज अपनी शक्ल बदलता हुआ आपने नहीं देखा होगा. तारे अपनी शक्ल बदल रहे हैं ऐसा आपने नहीं देखा होगा. लेकिन चंद्रमा हर रात अपनी शक्ल बदलता है, ये तो आप सब लोगों ने देखा होगा. कभी कभी चंद्रमा पूरा गोलाकार चमकता हुआ.
Do you recognize this guy who is in the video? he is Mr. H.C. Verma. He is a retired professor from IIT Kanpur. Okay, he has written 2 books, Concepts of Physics, 2 parts. Okay, if you want to crack NEET, JEE, any engineering entrance examination, any medical examinations, his books are like what you can say. It's like H.C. Verma Physics is like Gita, Bhagavad Gita to Hindu, or Bible to Christians, or like that. Similarly, physics के लिए H.C. Verma जैसा. So his standard is so high. So yeah. After his retirement, he started making some videos on YouTube also. You will know more about him. I will understand his importance next year when you come to 11th class. Okay. So let's see how he explains this concept.
जिसको हम पूर्णिमा कहते हैं या पूनम की रात कहते हैं, तो बिल्कुल गोल गोल वो दिखाई पड़ता है, और कभी वो कटा कटा सा दिखाई पड़ता है। तो अगर आप देखो शक्ल कैसी कैसी हो जाती है। अगर आप चित्र बनाते हैं, ड्राइंग करते हैं, पेंटिंग करते हैं, तो भी आप चंद्रमा बनाते हो, तो कभी ऐसा गोल गोल सा चंद्रमा रहता है, और कभी कभी एकदम ऐसा चंद्रमा होता है, पतला सा ऐसा चंद्रमा दिखाई पड़ता है, कभी कभी आधा चंद्रमा दिखाई पड़ता है, ऐसा कुछ चंद्रमा दिखाई पड़ता है, इधर नहीं दिखाई पड़ता, कभी कभी थोड़ा दिखता तो है लेकिन वो गोल थोड़ा सा बाद में जाकर के कुछ कटा कटा सा ऐसा दिखता है। तो ये अलग अलग किस्म का जो चंद्रमा दिखाई पड़ता है, इसको हम लोग चंद्रमा की कलाएं कहते हैं या फेजेस कहते हैं, मून के फेजेस कहते हैं इसको। और पूरे आप एक पूर्णिमा से शुरू करके और अमावस्या तक जाएं, और फिर अमावस्या से वापस पूर्णिमा तक आएं, तो अलग अलग दिन आपको अलग अलग किस्म के फेजेस दिखाई पड़ते हैं। तो ये कैसे होता है, इसको समझने की थोड़ी सी कोशिश करेंगे हम लोग। आप टेबल पर देखो, यहाँ पे टेबल पे आपको कुछ बढ़िया बढ़िया चीज़ें दिखाई पड़ रही हैं, अमरूद दिखाई पड़ रहे हैं, लेकिन ये जो अमरूद हैं आज की तारीख में वो अमरूद नहीं है। ये जो छोटा अमरूद है वो आज के लिए चंद्रमा है, और ये जो दूसरा अमरूद है ये आज के लिए पृथ्वी है, और ये एक और अमरूद है जो कि हमारा सूरज है। ये और भी बड़ा है सूरज, और भी।
Trying to say is this is sun. I assume this Goa is one. What do you call Goa in Kannada? In Telugu we call Jamakaya. It's called, what do you call this fruit in Kannada? Peru. Okay. Peru. Okay. This Peru is the sun. Okay. This Peru is the earth, and this Peru is the moon. Okay. And he deliberately not kept the sun on the same plane because they always need not coincide, like we have discussed in the previous videos. So this Peru is the sun. This Peru is the earth, this Peru is the moon.
बड़ा है, धरती और चंद्रमा की अपेक्षा बहुत बड़ा होता है सूरज, लेकिन हमने अभी छोटा सा रखा है। लेकिन आप कल्पना कर लो कि यहाँ पे बड़ा सा सूरज रखा है, और चंद्रमा धरती के चारों बगल चक्कर लगाती है एक महीने के अंदर में 29 दिन और कुछ 29.5 दिन के अंदर में, ये भी आपको पता होगा। और चक्कर कैसे लगाती है वो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है। तो उसके लिए देखो हम क्या करते हैं, पहले कि इस चंद्रमा पे एक हम लाइन बनाते हैं, इस चंद्रमा पे एक हम लाइन बनाते हैं, ऐसा ऐसा हम खींच रहे हैं, ये इस तरह से हम स्याही से
making a clear markings on the moon. Okay, he is dividing moon into 2 different parts.
और एक लाइन बना रहे हैं इस तरफ को, और इस तरफ को भी इसी को हम पूरा करेंगे ऐसा। तो अब ये 2 चंद्रमा के हमने भाग कर दिए हैं, चंद्रमा के हमने 2 भाग कर दिए हैं, एक लाइन के इस तरफ और एक लाइन के इस तरफ। और चंद्रमा जब घूमेगा धरती के चारों बगल, तो आप देखना कैसे घूमेगा, बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है। अगर हमने चारों बगल इसको घुमाना है तो हम इसको ऐसे भी घुमा सकते हैं, ऐसे चारों बगल घुमा सकते हैं, लेकिन चंद्रमा धरती के चारों बगल इस तरह से नहीं घूमता है। कैसे घूमता है, इस लाइन का ध्यान रखना, ये ऐसे घूमता है, ये ऐसे घूमता है। देखो लाइन कहाँ जा रही है।
Please pay focus on this side of the moon, students. Okay, the thumb of the H.C. Verma over here. Look at his thumb. The face that his thumb is facing. Okay, this part of the moon will always be facing the earth.
ये ऐसे घूमता है, इस तरह से घूमता है, ये इस तरह से घूमता है, इस तरह से ऐसा 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 घूमता है। तो लाइन के जिधर वाला हिस्सा अभी धरती के तरफ है, वही वाला हिस्सा हमेशा धरती की तरफ रहने वाला है। ये देखो, ये हिस्सा अभी धरती,
this face is always going to be towards the earth. The other face is never going to be seen from the earth.
धरती के साइड में है और ये हिस्सा धरती से दूसरे साइड में है। जब ये यहाँ आता है तो भी यही हिस्सा धरती के साइड में होता है, जब ये यहाँ आता है तो भी यही हिस्सा धरती के साइड में होता है। तो इस तरह से ये घूमता है। तो अर्थात
moon also rotate about itself. That's the trick here. The rotation period of the moon is 29.5 days. Its revolution period is also 29.5 days. That's why we see always the same face of the moon from the earth.
हम कभी भी चंद्रमा का जो दूसरा वाला साइड है वो नहीं देख सकते हैं। तो हम वो जो दूसरा वाला साइड है, ये वाला, उसको हम ब्लैक कर देते हैं, इसको हम पूरे को ब्लैक कर देते हैं।
That's what I'm saying, man. कि the moon rotates it's about itself as well as it revolves with the same period of time. So that's why you try to imagine this. You can do this experiment in your home also. You try to watch this video again. It may take some time for a few students, but yeah, this is what is happening.
देते हैं, ऐसा कर देते हैं। हमें पता हो गया अब कि ये वाला साइड मुझे धरती से नहीं दिखेगा। हाँ, हम देख सकते हैं चंद्रयान 2 में जब जाएंगे ना 2022 में, तो हम बहुत कुछ देख सकते हैं, लेकिन धरती पर खड़े होकर के हम नहीं देख सकते हैं। तो ये चीज,
so this dark thing which you have done, this other half which he has marked with pencil, the marker, we cannot see that face from the earth.
तो एक समझ आ गई। अब दूसरी चीज है कि ये जो सूरज है और यहाँ से रोशनी चलती है, बहुत दूर है और बहुत बड़ा है। तो यहाँ से जो रोशनी आती है वो ऐसा रोशनी आ रही है, इधर भी जा रही होगी, उधर भी जा रही होगी, लेकिन हमारे लिए ये रोशनी इस तरह से आ रही है। तो आप अभी की परिस्थिति में देखो, अभी जो है ये इसकी रोशनी कहाँ पड़ रही है, ये इसकी रोशनी यहाँ पड़ रही है और धरती पर।
In this scenario, the sun's rays are forming on the moon like this, and again they get reflected back and will be seen from the earth. In this particular case, we will be able to see the whole face, all this half of the moon completely, and this is what we call as full moon.
पर मैं कहाँ खड़ा हूँ? धरती पे हम यहाँ कहीं पर खड़े हैं और यहाँ पर ही कहीं पे खड़े होके, रात का समय है ये, इस धरती पे यहाँ खड़े होके हमें सूरज दिखाई नहीं पड़ेगा। इधर में दिन है और इधर में रात है।
This side of the earth is day and the other side is night, and in the night you will be able to see the full moon.
लेकिन ये चंद्रमा बड़ा अच्छा प्यारा दिखाई पड़ रहा है, पूरा का पूरा चंद्रमा दिखाई पड़ रहा है। ये पूरी रोशनी इसके ऊपर यहाँ पड़ रही है, यहाँ पड़ रही है, यहाँ पड़ रही है। ऐसे जो रोशनी आ रही है यहाँ से, ऐसे जो रोशनी आ रही है वो इस पूरे पे पड़ रही है और इसलिए ये हमारा पूनम का चांद है। ये पूरा गोल गोल चांद दिखाई पड़ता है हमें, ऐसे ये यही लाइन दिखाई पड़ती है हमें और इधर का पूरा चमकता हुआ दिखाई पड़ता है, ये उसकी कोर दिखाई पड़ती है। तो ये हमारी पूर्णिमा का चांद होता है। अब थोड़े 5-6 दिन गुजर जाएंगे तो ये चांद कहाँ पहुंच जाएगा? ये चांद यहाँ कहीं पर पहुंच जाएगा, ऐसा घूम करके यहाँ कहीं पर पहुंच जाएगा। अब जो यहाँ से रोशनी आ रही है, देखिए, वो इस काले वाले हिस्से पर भी पड़ना शुरू हो गई है और जो काले वाले जितने हिस्से पर पड़ रही है उतना ही इधर के गोरे वाले हिस्से पर नहीं पड़ रही है, क्योंकि इसको भी उतनी ही दूर आधे ही चंद्रमा को।
Now the sun
इसको
is falling on this moon, so this face of the moon will be lit, but from earth will be only be able to see this part of the moon, hence we see the crescent face. Now the rest of the video will be having the same explanation of the videos which we have seen earlier. So I'll stop this video here, and it also, yeah. So yes, students, and there are various n number of phenomena, and I cannot discuss all the phenomena in a single class. So yes. So I'll stop the class for your students. You may leave if you want, but if anyone is having any questions, you can ask. So let me know how you find the session. Okay, is it? Did you find it's useful or? And one more thing, whatever doubts that came to your mind and what all the things that I've said, you go and search the internet. I'm deliberately doing this because you should, when you search, when you try to find the answers by yourself, then you will be, what I say, you will be learning n number of other things also. Okay, so yes, keep finding answers. Okay, enjoy the learning process. Students, do not indulge in the personal chats. Okay, I'll end the session here. Thank you all.